Hi, everyone, and welcome to Failing Up, a limited series from the shallow end about our collecting mistakes and failures and how they impact us, and how eventually they help us better understand the card industry. It's about the moments that we need, even when we don't necessarily want them to happen. I'm Dave Schwartz, and I wanted to do this series to help us all feel a little less alone in this hobby. We've all made mistakes. No one is perfect, and maybe we can learn from each other. Today we welcome to the show Nick, the Instagram user known as Tasty Card Sandwich. Among other things, Nick is a connoisseur of early 2000s cards. But sometimes, as he points out, it's possible to become so focused on your lane that you miss out on what's happening around you. In Nick's case, it was the rise of some of the biggest modern cards in the hobby. We are going to welcome in now someone you might know as a champion question asker, known as Tasty Card Sandwich on Instagram. His name is Nick. Nick, thank you for being here. Welcome to the shallow end, and please tell us about a time that you failed.
Oh, well, first off, thanks for having me. I feel like you're scraping the bottom of the barrel with your guest here, but I appreciate the opportunity. It's time I failed. So to explain this time I failed, I want to talk about it's more of a cumulative failure, and I need to do a quick Micro Machine Man history of my card collecting, and then you'll understand it when I get to the end. So like most people, collected in the 80s and 90s, stopped in 1996 because my dad outlawed card collecting. He just said, no more card collecting. You're not allowed to spend money on cards. We're not taking you to the card shop, blah, blah, blah. So from 96 to 2002, didn't collect cards, didn't think about cards, complete just black hole in my mind. Cards didn't exist. Then from 2002 to 2012, I wasn't collecting because I couldn't afford it, but I would occasionally, if I had extra money or there was a rookie I was interested, I would buy cards periodically, maybe buy a box here or there. For instance, 20 years ago, I was buying boxes of 2005 Leaf Certified Materials, which is why I collected so hard now. And then so 2012, I started making money and I started collecting hardcore again. Kind of what I'd always wanted to do, but couldn't afford to do. And from 2012 to about 2015, I was collecting pretty hardcore. And one constant from 2002 through 2015 was I was always collecting what was current. I would just buy boxes. If it was 2013, I was buying 2013 tops, And then from 2015 to 2019, I kind of fell back into the early range where I'd buy boxes every now and then, but I wasn't really collecting. And 2019 was when I started really getting into hardcore, to where I am now, where I just I decided, if you look in the background, if you're watching on YouTube, I collected a bunch of random stuff throughout my life. And I decided as I was heading towards my 40s, I only want to collect cards. That's my focus. And I decided one day I had an hour commute to work. I decided to look and see if there were card podcasts. So I'm searching card podcasts and I found one called The House of Jordans. We've all heard of that one, So I downloaded it. I'm sitting on Laurel Canyon in just bumper to bumper traffic. And they're talking about late 90s Michael Jordan inserts. And I'm a Bulls fan. I'm from the Chicago area. I still have all my Michael Jordan cards when I was a kid. I never got rid of them. Love Michael Jordan. And I'm listening to this and I'm like, aren't all 90s cards junk? Aren't there what are they talking about? And so because I'm sitting on my trip, I'm taking out my phone and they're mentioning cards and I'm eBaying and Googling these cards and I'm just seeing rubies and precious metal gems and electrifying and all these, and I'm just what is happening right now? These incredibly gorgeous and cool looking cards exist, and they started making them right after my dad banned me from collecting cards. And I don't know about, how am I not knowing about this until right now in 2019? And so to me, to bring it back around, to me, my personal, of many failures as a collector, my biggest one has to be that I never looked back. I didn't 96 to 2002 was this black hole where I wasn't collecting after my dad banned it. And then all those years from 02 through 2019, when I was popping back in, when I was collecting, never once did I say, I wonder what they put out in 97 and 98 after I stopped collecting. Like, had my dad not forced me to stop collecting, what would I have been getting? I never did that. And like now that's like my favorite era to collect in. And I just think about, during like 2013 when I was hardcore, I was on eBay every night looking up, but I was only looking up current cards, but I was buying like printing plates and other rare one-of-one cards. And I just think about if I'd have known that like precious metal gems existed or something, like how awesome my collection would be right now. And like, obviously everyone who's collecting now, who's an adult, who, it's a lot of, common stories like, I stopped collecting around, 97. And then I came back in the pandemic. And, obviously everybody wishes that they could go back in time and start collecting in the early 2000s when cards were cheap and get all those precious metal gems. But I feel like what makes my version unique is that I was collecting heavily in like 2013. And the thought never occurred to me to just look back. And
was it like a lack of curiosity, or were you just super interested in what was in front of you now and the new stuff? Because I know when I came back in, it was when I left, there was no chrome, there were no refractors, there were no shiny stuff, no defects, nothing. And so when I came back in, I was like, whoa, what is this? Were you just fascinated by the new stuff, or was it a lack of curiosity, or what?
I think it's a bit of both. I don't know. I think honestly, I'm gonna just mock myself here, but stupidity, ignorance. Like I know that sounds kind of super negative, but like I don't want to say lack of curiosity because I'm a very curious person. I know you mentioned on one of your podcasts earlier, I read the book Mint Condition when it was new and talked about junk, and I think I had just written that era off as just like stay away from the 90s. For me, like what kind of started bringing me back in like 02 and 05 and stuff was relic cards, even though I have no interest in them. And now at the time I thought they were super cool and like low numbered parallels. So, and then I think I was like a prisoner of the moment where I was just like, there's cool cards coming out now. And I don't know. I've for as much as I've kicked myself over this and thought about it over the past 6 years now, I can't really explain why, especially again, as a Bulls fan who never got rid of his Michael Jordan, how I was never like, I wonder what, I should buy some 90s Jordans. I never thought about it. Just never thought about it.
I think you're onto something with the book and some other factors, because that was like prime junk wax, right? And, the other book, Card Sharks, the one about Upper Deck, where it comes in 89, from like 89 to 92, they are on fire. And then the book ends in 94. That's when the book comes out. There's never been a second edition. And they make it sound like the crash has hit. The meteor has crashed into the card hobby, and this is it. This entire hobby is in the past tense. So you would never think, one might never think that it ever rebounded unless it was, during COVID, much less 2 years later, right? When it's like Select certified and all sorts of the other things start popping up. But there it was. I could see how it would be, sort of a misperception.
Yeah, and part of me feels like a negative association, like it kind of, the way I stopped collecting cards, it's not the typical, you always hear like, oh, I got to high school and I started thinking about girls. And for me, it's like my dad just outlawed it. And like, I can remember it like it's happening right now, sitting across from him at the dinner table while my dad was kind of like, he was like a hard man. He was like from Gary, Indiana, like steel worker and stuff. And he just like, he didn't mess around. And when he decided something, when he put his foot down, like it was final. And like, I remember him just like lecturing me like hardcore about just like, no more. I'm so tired of this card stuff, blah, 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 and so there might've been like bad memory associated where I just kind of wanted to turn the page on that time period and just look forward and into the now. It's funny because unfortunately he's passed away now, but when I was getting back and ending during like 2020 and 21, I was just like, Dad, all those cards, all those cards from like 97, 98, right after you banned me from collecting, they're all worth a ton of money now. And he didn't care, but it was still funny.
I said no more. And, okay, got it.
Yeah.
But we all know we can't just keep staring backward, looking backward. In your current collecting, whether it's like, it's like the certified stuff or anything else that you collect, that early 2000s stuff, does that ever pop into your mind, this idea of like, I don't want to miss something again, or I just want to make sure what happened before does not happen again? Or is it just this sort of segregated moment that you have to compartmentalize?
I think it's a segregated moment that I have to compartmentalize. Although I do think it absolutely informs the way I collect. Like one of my, if you follow me on Instagram, I like off the beaten path and stuff, like early 2000 stuff. And one thing I like to do is I just go on ComC and I'll type in, 2005 Upper Deck, and then I'll select serial number. It's like baseball, and I'll just scroll through page after page, and I'll just look for cards I've never seen before that look cool. That's how I find a lot of stuff I like. And I do think that is based in that of before. Like if I had done that, in 2013, like I'm always kind of looking for the thing I've never found before. And I do think that they're connected. I think it's connected in some way.
One or two, and this might be the way I rationalize past things, but I wonder too, let's say if you had gotten into those late 90s things, or gone back to it, if you go back at a certain point, the prices would have just been soaring, right? So who knows what you would not have been able to collect in your current collection if you had chosen, to go back and do that. Maybe it just, eliminates some of what you can do now. I don't know. That's a way of maybe trying to say, oh, I did the right thing by not looking.
And it's hard to say too how I would have reacted. Like I can't say with absolute certainty that had I found precious metal gems in 2013 that I would have started buying. I can't say that with absolute certainty. But I feel like 95% certain, just because like when I first saw them in 2019, it was just like an explosion. I was like, oh my God, these are so awesome. Like I feel like I would have had the same reaction then too.
So of course, that's kind of out there that maybe one cannot necessarily answer. But if these were flipped, right? Let's say I was the guest on your show, and this question was, hey Dave, how did you fail? And I told the exact same thing. I said, from 96 to 99. I never thought to look at those cards, and I really wish I would have, because that was my error, but I didn't. What would you then say to me if I was saying that this is my this is a way that I wish I would have done differently with the hobby? What would you say to someone who did something similar to you did? Because I don't think you would say, man, did you screw up? Right?
Yeah.
You probably would come at it from a different perspective, right?
I guess I would just have to say I empathize, and then I'd want to know how they've kind of what you already asked me, how it's kind of, or I think you already asked me, how it's kind of affected them going forward, like what kind of effect that realization has had on you. Like it's definitely affected me in how I collect. I like to joke, there's the term FOMO, fear of missing out. I always feel like I collect with ROMO, which is regret of missing out. Like, because and again, it's not the same as, someone who just didn't collect at all for 20 years, wishing they did. Like I was collecting. It was right there. It was like, if you're playing hide and go seek, and you're like looking under the bed, and you look under the dresser, and you don't look in that one spot that's like right in front of you. You just keep looking past it, right over it, under it, past it. And like, and you just miss it. And then when you find out later, when the person pops out, it's like, I was hiding here. And you're just like, what? How did I miss that? That's how I feel about it.
In a way, though, I think this makes you more interesting, right? Because I can go, we'll both, as we're recording this, we'll both be at the National in a couple of weeks. As people are listening to this, the National will be over. But we can put a bunch of people in a room and they say, what do you collect? Late 90s, and they'll rattle off like the same 5 sets as everybody else. So maybe this just made you a more interesting collector.
I don't even know what to say. It's a very nice thing to say. I appreciate it.
Sure. All right, Nick, thank you. Really, really appreciate it. If anybody wants to find Nick on Instagram, as they should, fantastic follow, tasty card sandwich, a legend in the hobby. Nick, thanks for being on.
Thank you for having me, Dave. That was awesome. Appreciate it.